Abel Teffra, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So you told me this before recording. Olympic trials next week. Big stage, first one ever. If I'm remembering correctly, I would have been shocked if you made it in 2021. What's the mindset going into it?
Same thing. It's been kind of all winter and spring this year. Just like compete and go out there and have fun.
When was the first time you heard about the Olympic trials, and how full circle is it to make it there and actually be in it?
Um, First time hearing about the trials, maybe like 2016 when that cycle was going on, and then but I've known about the Olympics since like maybe the 2012 games. Um, but yeah, I mean, I grew up watching the Olympics like 2012, 2016, and to take part in like the process and getting to the Olympics is definitely a cool.
Is there a specific athlete you think you'll line up and be side to side and be like, man, that's crazy? I watch you all the time.
I mean, I think it'd be cool to line up next to like Centrowitz just because he was the 2016 champ. So
Yeah. Final one, Centro's final Olympics, final
yeah,
or Olympic trials, final season. As someone who grew up in the sport, you said 2016 was like the first time you really paid attention to it. He obviously won the Olympics that year. As a fan of the sport, is that kind of sad seeing him leave the sport?
yeah. I mean, I think he had a good run. I mean, he reached like the highest level and he excelled at that level. And so yeah, I think he had a great career.
I know in the NCAA, it's so focused indoor through outdoor, and you're kind of hitting it hard very early in the winter. How's the body feeling? Do you feel up ready for a break, or do you feel like you're peaking at the right time? And how hard is it to get that right? What are those conversations like with Bonsi?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it a lot this year. Just like being able to strike in like November and then March and then June is like definitely difficult. Um, but we get breaks like at the end of like every season. So I think my body's feeling great right now. I think I'm in a good spot. And I think like one thing that kind of indicated that was racing Portland track, and I ran a personal best. So I think I'm in a good spot right now.
Take me through the Portland Track Fest, as you just mentioned there, that PR. What was it like in that race and crossing the line in a PR, getting momentum at the right time?
Right. Yeah, Portland was cool. I thought the race was perfect. Honestly, there was a pacer, and I saw a gap open up like within the first 200 meters between the pacer and like the field, and so I was like, all right, like I have nothing to lose right here. I'm gonna just like stick right behind the pacer, and he brought us through 800 and like 154 mid, something like that. And yeah, from he stepped off 800 and like it was kind of difficult to like remain on the pace, but I just like stuck my head down and like continued with the pace, and then my body locked up the last 100, but ran a personal best and got my time for trial. So
If I'm not mistaken, I think Portland Track Fest is the final day you can get your qualifier for the trials. How nerve wracking was it stepping on the line? Did you feel any nerves like this is my last chance to do it? Or was it kind of like, well, we'll leave it up to fate. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I can take my break.
yeah, it's kind of funny that they have it like literally on the last day to like run a time. I never raced on a Sunday, so that was my first race on a Sunday. But I mean, I was just kind of like lining up, just like knowing I had to do this. Like, I knew like my time previous to my 3:36 that day was not going to get in. So I was just like, all right, I need to do this. I feel good. I'm going to do everything I can. So I kind of just like, I kind of went into it like just knowing that like I'll be able to run whatever the time I need to run.
Going into the trials, obviously, I'm sure you're thrilled to be there. Took a lot to get there. You qualify on the last day possible. How do you switch your mindset? I've heard about this on the podcast. A lot of people like make that dream event and then they like are just thrilled to be there, which isn't a bad thing, but it kind of prohibits them from competing. And a lot of times they get knocked out early or don't race how they want to. For you, is this more like I'm just here to gain the experience and then hopefully get after in 2028 for LA? Or if it's more the competition mindset, how do you get out of that kind of awestruck, Centro's on the line with me type, I'm
Yeah,
just happy to be here. Not that that's bad, but you know what I mean? If you get in that, a lot of times it can prohibit you from competing as you can.
yeah, I think I'm aware of like the level that I'm racing at next week. And so I'm not really thinking of it like, oh, like this is cool. Like I still want to like be able to like make it as far as I can into that whole meet. But I'm kind of just going there, just knowing I need to compete, and kind of just do what I've been doing like all year, just like competing to the best of my ability.
What are the goals for the trials? 3 rounds? Is it make the final? Is it make the team? How ambitious are we thinking for Eugene?
I'm just taking it one round at a time, so kind of treat every round as a final, just depending how far I get.
I feel like with the NCAA, y'all race so hard all the time. I think indoors, like you ran a personal best of 3:56, and then a few weeks later, you ran 3:54. And I feel like the NCAA, the level has gotten so good that people are just hammering all the time. Do you feel like that prepares the NCAA athletes well for the rounds of the trials?
Yeah, I think it does. I think more than anything, it kind of just gives us different racing experiences and like being able to just like be in different scenarios. Like I know not every race is going to be the same. Sometimes you'll be in a race where you're trying to like run a qualifying time, and then sometimes you'll just be like in a prelim like at conference, and you're just kind of working on like winding it down or like like switching gears and stuff like that. So I think it overall it kind of just gives you good racing experiences.
Let's go through this NCAA season. Take me through the indoor season, the outdoor season, and ultimately how you feel like that's propelled you going into those trials.
Yeah, so at the end of cross, I remember my coach was telling me like you can make nationals, and I was like super like confident going into every race, and then like we ran that K, and then Tenoda broke the collegiate record like a week after Bismana broke it, and so we were all in that same race, and we were kind of just like building our own momentum as the season went on, and then Tenoda ran like 146, and then like you know we had milers all like a few milers run under 4, and like we had a DMR qualify. Like we were just kind of building momentum week in and week out, and yeah, which ultimately led us to having DMR play second, and then I placed fifth, and then Tenoda got knocked out in the semifinals, I think, in the 800, which isn't bad for him because he's pretty good. But yeah, we kind of just built momentum going into outdoor, and then like just like every other athlete in track and field in college, just kind of just chasing a regional time, and then yeah, I went to what meet is it? Is it the Brian Clay invite? Me and my other teammate Camden, we raced 1500s there, got our times, and then we were kind of just like training through a lot of the races, and then Penn Relays comes. We placed second in the DMR, and then third in the 4x mile, and then we set the American record in that 4x mile. Even though we placed third, like the two teams that beat us had non-Americans on the team, so that was cool. And then we went into Big East and then regionals. And then yeah, here we are now.
My mind could go many places with all the races you just took me through. I guess first and foremost, off the top of my head, I feel like Coach Bonsi is one of the most underrated coaches in the NCAA, not just now, but over the past few years. You go through some of those performances to Noda, I think the top freshman in the eight, one of the top guys in the country, quite frankly, with how well he's running. Parker Stokes winning the steeple. I
Right,
don't think a lot of people saw that coming, but if you were following his career closely, like you knew he had one in him. You running so well, so fast, making the trials. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of guys right now, but can you speak to Bonzi? Oh, also like that 4x mile. Another thing that the other two teams didn't have is all four of you split under 4. The other teams had one person split 4 or above. That was the first in history. It's just like
right.
crazy stuff. Y'all are like becoming middle distance university, but I feel like people kind of sleep on Georgetown, and it's not really thought of as like a powerhouse in running. Can you speak to the aspect of Georgetown turning you into this incredible athlete as well as Bonzi, and how good of a coach he is and how he's affected your career for the better?
Yeah. So I came in August 2020 as a freshman, um, and then we were online like that whole school year, and then we came to campus in January of 2021, and I remember showing up to campus, and I was like all my teammates were like pretty good. I had like Robert Bray on the team, Jack Salisbury, like, and then like the guys who are a year older than me, like Matt Piamps and Matt Rizzo and Camden Gilmore and all them. I think just having like teammates who were pretty good out of high school, and then just like building with them over the years, and then just like following their footsteps, kind of helped me elevate as an athlete. And then obviously Bonzi's kind of taken this like long term approach with me, and he kind of does this with most of his athletes. He kind of just understands how I operate and how I am as an athlete, and he's kind of just like slowly but surely like trained me harder like over the years, and eventually like I just became who I am right now. I started running well, but it took a lot of time and a lot of courage and trusting in his coaching. But yeah, I agree with you. He's very underrated.
What would you say to the listener who is trying to rush their process and progress in the sport of running? As you were saying, Bonzi's taken a very slow approach with you and the other guys. That's kind of yielded the results we're now seeing. How important do you think patience is in the sport of running?
Yeah, I think it's different with everyone, but from my experience, I would say that it doesn't happen overnight, and all you can really do is just continue to show up every day, even when things aren't going well or if you're not feeling well. Like, sometimes like running sucks, but if you really want to, excel at whatever level you're trying to excel at, you need to understand what you need to do to get there. And so I think for me, I just kind of was able to understand and build slowly over the years, and then just the accumulation of everything over the past 3 4 years kind of just led me to where I am right now.
What would you say the biggest keys have been to you making it to this level? And even like maybe a high schooler or a middle schooler listening who wants to go D1, what are some attributes you think they should practice on a daily basis to get there?
I know everyone says this, but keeping it super simple and just being consistent. Running in nature is pretty simple. Like, you just gotta show up and run. But then there's also like the training aspect and like making sure you're taking care of your body and things like that. Just little things where where you can like improve on a daily basis. And then like just being consistent in your running, like I said. Over the years, it'll just build up and slowly, incrementally build up, and eventually you'll become a better runner.
Looking back on like your career and mindset in the sport, did you ever think you'd make it this far and run as fast as you have?
I've always had like self belief at being like good, and my body wasn't there yet, but I've always believed in myself. Even when I wasn't really all that great, like even in high school, like I knew I could run Division 1. I knew I could excel at that level too. Um, but just I think self belief is a super strong thing to have. Always believing in yourself, especially if you really want to excel at something.
We've talked a lot about present day and a lot of things you're going through, mindset, etc., things that have gotten you this far in sport. But let's go all the way back in time to young Abel. Take me through his start in the sport of running.
I think maybe it was like PE class, and we had to do like the fitness test or something, like the pacer thing, like where you have to like run back and forth, like and the beeper tells you when to run and stuff. Um, and I just remember like going like super far, like in comparison to like my classmates, and I think I just tried out one day for like the track and field team, and then in like middle school, I think, and then yeah, and then ever since then, it just kind of just became like something that I did every year, and then eventually high school came, and then I like broke 5 minutes in the mile freshman year, and I thought like I was on top of the world. And yeah, I just kind of just like progressed throughout high school pretty quickly too, and then I reached out to Bonsi, and then yeah, here I am.
Rest is history. Take me through the transition from being good at the pacer test, trying out in middle school, getting on the team, to then like being really serious about it? Like, what was that switch from participating in the sport to then being like, oh, this is something I want to explore at a high level and be good at and dedicate, time, energy, and effort into?
Yeah, I had a coach in high school. He's still coaching, but just at a different high school. Um, he ran for Chico State in California. He kind of he came in my sophomore or junior year, I think, and then he like told me a lot about his like collegiate experience and like running at a Division II school and then being an All American and like cross and stuff like that. And I just thought it was really cool, and just like he told me a bunch of stories of like traveling and just being able to like run at these national meets. And back then I thought it was like probably like the coolest thing. Um, and yeah, I think it was like around my junior year I made the state meet, and I didn't make it out of the prelim. And then I was just like, oh, like I can make it this far. Let's see what I can do next year. And then COVID hit that following year. Um, and then I think I reached out to Bonsi after my junior year. I think like in the fall of my senior year, like November. And then that's when I kind of really knew like I really wanted to run a Division I. Just kind of understanding what it was like through my coach or coaches.
I'm not sure if they still stand. I'm assuming they do. You hold the school record for your high school in the 800, 1600, 3200, 2 mile cross country, 3 mile cross country, and 5K cross country. Were you low key that guy in high school, or were they still focused on football and the other popular sports?
Yeah, we did have I think we consistently have like a pretty good football team. But in my section, I think I think I was like one of the best in the section. I wasn't Valley champion or anything, section champion, whatever. Maybe in cross I was, I forget, but yeah, I didn't know those records still stand. But my younger brothers, I wonder if they ever took a crack at it, because we're all like 1 year apart, but they all run collegiately now. So
Really? How many brothers do you have?
I have four brothers and two sisters. My four brothers, um, one of my younger brothers actually runs for Georgetown, and then my other two brothers run at like Division II schools in California.
So, younger brother on the team. What's that like?
It's
Can you push
interesting.
him around? You're like, hey, this is my place.
I mean, I try to like lead by example. As an older brother, it's kind of how it's been. Like I haven't really been like a vocal leader at all. I kind of just like lead by example. And I think he's already like off to a better start than I was in college, and so I think over time like he'll get better. And yeah.
You were good in high school. Maybe it's controversial to say you were good, but I don't think you were 354 in the mile good. What do you think it's taken, and what's kind of the progression been to get to that point? And what would you say to maybe a high schooler who just graduated, getting into college? They're like, I didn't necessarily have the best high school career, but I still have those dreams and aspirations. How do I get there?
Yeah, I didn't really think I was gonna be this good in high school. I mean, I always believed I was able to compete with just about anybody, but in high school. But I didn't think I didn't have the goal. I remember I had the goal of breaking four. Like I know that was always something in my head during like high school. And it happened 1 year. I think it was my sophomore year. Um, yeah, I think kind of just like setting your goals, making sure they're attainable, make sure you're doing everything you can. And it's always good to kind of just like, I think it's okay to be obsessed with the sport, but also like not be like overly like the top with things, and kind of just let things be natural to you, I would say. Kind of just like enjoy it while you're doing it. You don't want to put too much internal pressure to do certain things. And um, at least that's what I would say from personal experience.
What have been some turning points in your collegiate career? Memories, races, things you think have propelled you?
I think my first year competing for Georgetown, I made the quarterfinals in the 1500. Um, and so I thought that was like, okay, like I almost made nationals is what I was thinking at the time. Even though like I was still like a couple seconds away from like that top five, I was like, I was like seventh, and I think they took five in that heat. But I was thinking like, okay, like I know I can get there, and so I think that was like a pretty big turning point for me. I went to altitude that following summer, and yeah.
Georgetown, if people don't know, is pretty prestigious academically, not just athletically. Was that a shift coming out of high school, going to such a prestigious academic school? And how have you balanced both academic and athletics over the past 4 years?
Um, yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what you're studying, but I think as long as you know how to like manage your time and not get too caught up to the point where you're like lacking sleep and stuff like that. But I don't think it's that difficult. Like I would say, I'm a good student, so I try to get things done as soon as possible. Um, so yeah, I would say just like managing your time and not getting caught up.
I did mention this race earlier. What was it like seeing Parker Stokes win the steeple? And how often do you train? Do you overlap?
Yeah, me and Parker are actually roommates, and we kind of train like pretty much every threshold. We train together. He like ends up doing like more like steeplechase specific workouts on like the Fridays and stuff like that. But yeah, watching that was super cool. I remember we were in one of my teammates' house in Portland because I was racing Portland Track Fest that same weekend, and we were watching it live, and we kind of just like were watching and watching and watching, and then eventually it came to a point where it was like the bell lap, and we were like, oh my god, like Parker's in the front, like he might win this, and yeah, I mean like it was super cool seeing him cross that line. Like he's been close. I remember he placed third a couple years ago, and we knew he was capable of winning, and to see it finally happen was probably like one of the coolest things I've ever watched.
I feel like I brought this up with Robert Brandt before on the podcast, but something so unique for Georgetown is the 333-meter track, I think it is. What's it like training on that track? And can you enlighten the people on the setup at Georgetown?
Yeah, so we run in lane three, which is like 333.3333 like meters. So like 3 laps would be a K in lane three. Um, it was definitely an adjustment coming out of high school. I was kind of like confused on like where each marker was, but like it only takes like a couple weeks to kind of understand what's going on. I can't really find like the best way to explain it, but yeah, I mean it's super simple once you get to understand how it works. Yeah,
For you, was this your final season at Georgetown, or do you have one more after this?
I have one more year. Yeah,
Okay, one more. What are you looking to do? Final year at Georgetown, final year in the NCAA.
just have as much fun as possible. I think these have been some of the best years of my life. Just competing in college, traveling new places, and all things like that. And yeah, just have fun, compete, and just go out with a bang.
What's it like being in the NCAA, specifically in the 15, where it's just so stacked? I mean, every single year, I feel like for the past few years, the top five is just interchangeable. It's like if you run this race 5 times, you come up with a different winner. Maybe with a
Right.
UW on their chest. Maybe that's controversial. I don't know. To a Georgetown guy. What's it like being in such a competitive landscape?
Yeah, I mean, like NCAA is like stacked across all events. I feel like it's just become like such a like pool of like incredible talent. Yeah, I mean it's difficult to kind of like it's difficult to always um, be competing like at such a high level, but as long as you're preparing yourself, and I think the experience is what really helps a lot of people. I feel like I feel like a lot of the top runners in NCAA 1500 have kind of been experienced over the last 2 3 years. So I feel like um, yeah, it's honestly just like kind of crazy. Like I mean, it goes from like what 333 to like 337. Like there's like a bunch of athletes like in between like that time frame. but yeah, it's super cool to be a part of for sure. Just to see like the mile consistently getting better over the years. Yeah.
You've run 3:54. National record's not too far off. I know 2 seconds is 2 seconds. I think it's 3:52. Is that in the back of your mind at all going into the final year?
It's actually 350, I think.
3:50. Okay. Hey,
Yeah.
4 seconds, 1 second per lap. Light work.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think I've exponentially gotten better over the years. So I mean, if you look at my progression, I think it's definitely within the realm of possibilities. But yeah, only time will tell.
Last year, Joe Oscom made the team in the 15. Any hot takes for NCAA's this year? Oh, sorry, not NCAA's. Trials. My bad. I'm stuck 2 weeks ago. Hot takes for the trials 2024.
Um, yes, um, I think the 1500 just in the U.S. in general, like NCAA or just like in the U.S. is just like crazy right now. Um, I mean, like you got like Hobbs Kessler and like Eric Cole and like Yared and Cole and Cooper. Like there's so many incredible 1500 runners at the front. So I mean I don't really have like any predictions on who's gonna make the team and who's not, but I mean I feel like anything can happen. Like when you put like so much people like that in like a race, it's like what's really separating everyone at that point is just kind of like small margins, like little things like positioning or something. Like I don't know.
Abel, one final serious question for you. For those who have listened to our conversation, look up to you, are inspired by you, your progression, what would be the final takeaway message you want to leave with our audience today?
Believe in yourself and believe in the people around you, and I think that at a certain point, the accumulation of hard work and your consistency will become like presentable. If that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
It's good stuff. Poetic. Poetic. I love it. Abel, final question for you. The question I ask every single guest on every single episode. If you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
I would make penne alla vodka salmon.
Ooh. Where did this man learn to cook? That's fancy. It's fancy.
Yeah, it's like probably the most like typical thing I make like every night when I'm at school.
Dude, that's fancy. Have you always been this good of a cook or
I
salmon's
mean, I
tricky?
don't I don't really like cook that many things. Like I kind of stick to a routine with food. Like it's always eggs and bacon and potatoes in the morning, and then lunch is like some sandwich, which is like kind of like not the most consistent meal. Like I always change lunch, and then dinner is always just some kind of form of pasta, chicken, or like salmon.
Nice, nice. Well, Abel, really appreciate the conversation. Thank you for sharing your story, insights, wisdom, all that fun stuff. I'll be rooting for you in Eugene. Crazier things have happened. Praying for that Cinderella story. Keep crushing it, man.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.